What is up? Welcome to another episode of the Big Sky Investor Show. I am your host, Luke Anderson. And if you're joining for the first time or the 12th time or the second time or whatever it is, thank you. Thanks for sticking with me. So I wanted to do an episode on driving for dollars. And I've already recorded this one other time. Last week, I didn't do an episode. Or didn't post an episode, but I didn't have time to be, just because of how the week ended up working out and everything, I wasn't able to sit here and do an episode. So I was actually out driving around doing, or just driving for dollars. And so I was recording on my phone, and it wasn't the best quality or anything, but I figured I still wanted to honor what I said I would do and release an episode a week. But because I recorded it on my phone, for some reason I just thought in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'll just record it on my phone and just upload it and it'll be fine. I'm like, oh wait, it has to go through a few more processes to be processed as a podcast. Like, oops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new. Well, first, before I say that, I have an announcement to make, and that is, if I haven't announced it already, the YouTube channel is up, The Big Sky Investor, on YouTube. So you can find all the video recordings of each episode under a playlist called The Big Sky Investor Show on that channel. Or under, I think it's called the Big Sky Investor Podcast playlist. But I'm going to create another playlist called Bonus Content or something like that, where you'll be able to find that video on driving for dollars. Because it wouldn't really make a good podcast episode because I'm just like head on a swivel, like looking at properties as I drive down the road. And there's a lot of pauses, and I don't think it'd be very fun to listen to. So if you want to watch it, it's a little more interactive. I kind of show off some properties and stuff like that I saw. Just very briefly, it's not very long, but I will do that. So I thought to make up for it, I'm just going to do an episode talking about driving for dollars and what that is and how to do it, and all that jazz. So, driving for dollars is a strategy that investors use to locate potential property leads. And literally, it's driving around neighborhoods looking at properties, right? That's why it's called driving for dollars. And what most people look for is properties that are distressed or vacant or both. Also, or properties that have, those stickers on the window, like different notices from the city. So like I just went to the store and got a drink. And on the way back, I noticed that a property right down the street from me, right across the street from the grocery store, is vacant and has city notices on it. Look it up. It's got tax liens on it, and the owner has vacated the property. So I'm gonna. That's a property added to my list, and I'm gonna contact them and see if that's a property that we can get under contract and either acquire or pass it off to another investor. So we're gonna find out some more details on that, and that's right down the street from me. So, and that I noticed that when I didn't notice it was vacant. Well, when I went and looked at it closer, looked in the window, I noticed that there was no furniture or anything like that. All the blinds are open. And once I walked up to it, I realized it was vacant. But I noticed that on almost every side of the house, there was some sort of a notice. And so I walked up and looked at the notice. But other than that, like the property looked like it had been maintained. So normally I wouldn't be one that I'd look at, but I noticed those signs, right? Or those notices in the window. So the process of doing that is you're driving down the street, you see a property that's distressed, you document why it looks distressed, and anything else that might be of value, like, hey, the blinds are open and there is literally nothing inside, like it is vacant. Or maybe there's a vacant notice that the post office has put in the mailbox, or there's notices from the city on it, or whatever. There's 5 newspapers on the front step, whatever it may be. You document all that. You write down the address, document some things you notice about the property. Then you can go in and research on the county tax website. You can skip trace for the owner, contact the owner, see what the situation is. You can go talk to neighbors, see if they know, just collect some information and pursue that and see if it's a property that you can acquire and if there's a problem to solve. So like I said, the property on the street has a tax lien on it. We might be able to help out with that. We'll see. Maybe it's a foreclosure situation and the bank needs to offload that property. Maybe it's a pre-foreclosure situation that person needs to save face and get out of that situation to salvage their credit a little bit, maybe walk away with a few dollars and get out from under that house, right? Maybe it's an inheritance situation and the people just don't know what to do with it. That was one I worked on for a little bit that I'm going to start pursuing again. It was an inheritance situation and there were 6 siblings that have this house and it has literally sat vacant for like almost 5 years and they can't decide on what to do with it. So they cut off communication with me when we were getting close, when we were right before we put it under contract. And I'm going to try and reach out again and see if we can maybe rework something out that is a win-win for all the siblings. But that house I drive by almost every day and it's vacant. And they do stuff to it here and there. But anyway, maybe they sold it. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think they did because I still see the people over there. But anyway, occasionally. Anyway, so getting back to what I was saying. Sorry, that was kind of a rabbit hole there. But what I was saying is the whole point of driving for dollars is to identify leads. And you can identify those leads by the ways I just talked about. Now, do you just drive around aimlessly? No, you have to have a plan, right? So for me, I don't have exorbitant amount of time to go out and just drive for 4 hours at a time. Some people do. I know people that literally they will go out and they have time blocked, say an afternoon or a morning, and they will go and they will just drive and in specific areas, drive every single street in a big block of the city, drive up and down streets and document properties, write them down, maybe go talk to neighbors, if it's like a weekend and there's neighbors that are still home, or if it's in the evening, like go and ask for, say, hey, this property looks like it's vacant. Like, do you know the story on it? Oh yeah, Joe used to live here and he died and I think his kids got it and they're not doing anything with it, or whatever. So I don't have a whole lot of time to do that. Also, I don't do well driving for extended periods of time because of my health. So I have to be very cautious. I have to be very deliberate on when I do it and how long I do it for. So the other day when I recorded the little video on my phone, I was out running errands, and a couple of my errands, I had to drop some stuff off and have some work done. And I had to wait. And I was on the opposite side of town from home. Didn't make sense to drive home. So I'm like, hey, I've got like an hour to kill. I'm going to go drive for dollars. So I drove in an area of town that I normally don't frequent. So I drove in that area and found, I think, 4 or 5 properties that I added to the list to look at. I think there were 5. No, I'm sorry. There were 5. There were 5 properties I put down. And I searched, I don't know, that maybe 2 miles by 2 miles or something. I don't know what it was. I'm not even going to guess. But a decent area in a nice in like a middle class neighborhood, but in a great area of town. And, not an area you'd think you'd see distressed properties. And sure enough, out of the 5, there were 2 that were for sure distressed. One of them was vacant, one of them was not, but it was for sure distressed and not kept up at all. After looking at it, that one's an absentee owner, so they have a renter in there, but it is not like peeling paint, siding, windows are trashed, overgrown shrubberies and weeds and ivies and stuff, like roof shingles falling. I mean, it was pretty bad, right? It's not vacant, but it's in rough shape. So that might be one, like they don't want to put the work into it and they're just kind of biding their time and just renting it out, hoping nothing else goes wrong, but like stuff's going to go wrong for them. So that one we're going to reach out to. The other one was vacant. So we're going to reach out to that one, see what's going on there, do a little more research. The other three were vacant. And one of them, I'm trying to think what there was. Two of them for sure did not look really distressed, but they were for sure vacant. Definitely vacant. Absentee owner, vacant. Did not have rental signs. Like there's something going on there. And the other one had, I'm trying to think what the fifth one was. Maybe there were only four. Anyway, you get the point. So kind of a variety of things. Anyway, so I just spent about an hour documenting and then just did my video, and which took a little bit of time. So I didn't, getting that all set up and everything. But anyway, so I just drove around for like an hour and did that. Now, I don't drive for dollars most of the time. I have other people do that. Now, what that is called in the industry is called bird dogs. So bird dogs are people who go out and are driving around, driving for dollars, locating properties, and doing the same thing that I just did, but then passing the information off to me. So then when that deal closes, I can give them, say, $500. Say I end up wholesaling a contract, and it was a property that they found, and I end up getting under contract and wholesaling my position in the contract. Then maybe I give them $500 as like a finder's fee or something. So that's a great way that leverages my time. Also, if I'm driving for dollars, typically how I do it, that's what I was going to mention earlier, and I kind of got off track, but instead of driving for big time blocks, whenever I go somewhere, I try and take a different route than I normally do. So instead of taking the main streets, I might take a back street and take it kind of slow. It only adds maybe 5 minutes to my route, and maybe I get a property out of it. Cool. So that's what I do, and that's how I train my bird dogs. And I say, hey, okay, soccer mom or whatever, I know you don't have time to go out and drive for dollars for 4 hours, and you don't want to waste your gas. But when you're taking the kids to soccer, why don't you take a different route to soccer practice and have your kids help you look for distressed properties or vacant properties? And that can work out really well. I am looking at the possibility of trying to network with other people, like professionals that have how do I want to say that? Professionals that are in neighborhoods frequently. So as an example, code enforcement. I want to get to know the code enforcement people because I see them driving around all over the place. They're looking at properties all day long. And if I can help them by saying, hey, what are some houses like you have, some properties that you have trouble with, like keeping in compliance with city code? Great. I'm going to pursue those and see if I can acquire them. So then we can mark those off your list and you don't have to spend so much time on them. Right. And you can maybe make a few bucks. Cool. Right. And they're in code enforcement for a reason. They want to see this, like chances are, at least on some level, I mean, it's going to be just a job, but on another level, like they're doing that specific job for a reason, most likely. And they want to see the city like looking nice and like operating nice, and people's homes are in, and businesses and things like that. Properties in general are in good shape. So code enforcement, first responders, mailmen and women. Mailmen, male women. I think male persons. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not very politically correct. I don't care. You know what I mean. People that deliver the mail. Because they're in neighborhoods all day long. Like UPS drivers, FedEx drivers, sprinkler guys, lawn care guys. Stuff like that, people who are going to like help, blow out sprinklers or keeping a property mowed. Like I gave you that example, the one that had been inherited and there were 6 siblings, like they mowed the lawn. They had someone that mowed the lawn like once a month or once every 2 weeks, something like that during the spring and the summer. So it was kind of deceiving because it looked like it was an old place, and it wasn't like run down, but it was definitely dated. But the lawn was always mowed, and the weeds were always kept. Well, it's because they've been paying someone to keep up the property so that they don't have problems with code enforcement, and they know that if they like let the weeds go and crawl up the side of the house, it's going to ruin the siding and stuff. So they've been paying to have that taken care of. If I, could connect up with their lawn care guy, I guarantee that he or she has other clients that do the same thing, and they know that the place is vacant, right? Another one, kind of going back to a former career of mine, was home care for disabled and senior adults. And, sometimes people move out, sometimes people pass away. And then the family's left with the property and they don't know what to do with it. Sometimes it makes sense to list it with a realtor. Sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends. Networking with those people. And so then the home care people can, they have a very intimate relationship with the clients and the client's family. So say someone has to move into a facility, or someone has to pass away, or someone passed away, then, I can be top of mind for the home care, and they can say, hey, Jill, I'm so sorry that your mom passed away, and I know you expressed that you're not sure what to do with the house. A good friend of mine, Luke, he used to be in the home care industry. He understands as well, but he's in real estate. He's an investor, and he finds creative ways to help people move their property. And because maybe it's a situation where if they're like, we don't want to list it with a realtor because we're going to have to pay huge capital gains when we sell it for a huge lump sum. Well, maybe it makes sense to sell it on creative terms. Maybe it makes sense to do like a lease with an option. I don't know. Anyway, there's you get my point. So finding unique relationships to convert people into bird dogs, having them starting to look for properties for you can really help you leverage other people's time, and can be a win-win, because then if you close, then they get some dollars and you get a property. It's a win-win. So that's driving for dollars. That's bird dogs who can drive for dollars for you. One last thing I wanted to touch on was virtual driving for dollars. Maybe there's a different name for it, but that's what I call it. And that's primarily what I do, because that's something that I can do consistently. That I can do consistently regardless of what my health is. Now, I can't do it every day because sometimes I just can't be on a computer or on my phone, period. But chances are I can at least do it for some period of time. And how that works is I just go to Google. You go to Google, you type in I'm in Billings, Montana. Maybe Billings, Montana 59102. Boom. Pops up. I go over to the side thing, the side tab menu, or if it's on mobile, it's like 3 little dots or whatever. You click on that, and then it brings a drop-down menu, and you push satellite. Satellite then brings up literally the satellite 3D image of what you're looking at. You can start looking for properties, and you can click on the building, and more often than not, it'll provide you an accurate address. So say as an example, I'm looking for multifamily, from a bird's eye view, I might be able to look at the roof of a building or the layout of the lot and go, that's a multifamily property. As an example, there's an area not too far from me where there's literally like 3 or 4 blocks, maybe it's 5 blocks of solid multifamily properties on like 3 or 4 different streets for like 5 blocks. It's like all duplexes, triplexes, 4plexes, 5plex, all the way up to, I think the biggest one's like a 10plex, but it's mostly like 4plexes and 6plexes in this one area. Very high density of smaller multifamily properties. Now I can look at it and identify which ones are which, because like say it's a 4plex, there's like on some of these properties, there's literally 4 entrances, main level entrances. So there's 4 sidewalks going to the property. Then I can verify it because then I can scroll in and go down to street view, which then takes me from a bird's eye view to street view, where I'm like literally like standing on the side of the street looking at the property. And I can see, oh, that property, yep, I see the 4 entrances. I also see the 4 mailboxes, right? Now, maybe it's not as obvious as that. Maybe it's that it looks like that there's a huge parking space in the back, which is common in this area as well. Oh, this has 6 parking spaces in the back. I can see 6 cars in a row and it's obviously on the same lot. That's pretty obvious as well. Now, if it's not as obvious like that, you can just scroll and be on the street view and just be going down the street, looking side to side, looking at properties and going, okay, this address, there's 6 mailboxes on the front. Okay, this looks like it's a 6-plex. Okay, this one over here only has 1 mailbox, 1 entrance. This looks like a single family. Like, you can just kind of tell, right? Now, you might be able to, when you're in that street view, it's a little bit harder to determine like the stressed or vacant because it's not always the most updated image. But sometimes you can look at it and go, wow, this property, so right now, say it's March. Say the image was in December. Oh, look, I'm going down the street. There was snow on the ground when this image was taken. And out of this whole block, only 1 house was not shoveled. Maybe this is a vacant house. You go drive by it. Sure enough, it's vacant still. Cool. Like I said, that's more for if you're looking for like specific properties, like or like specific types of property, like multifamily. But I have found some properties where it's like, wow, that one's obviously distressed. You just kind of like, oh, you can just tell. Or that one's obviously vacant. I wonder if it's still vacant. And like I said, it's not always up to date, so it's not the best way to do it, but at least gets you looking at something. And it can give you, you can also use that to get a feel for an area. So as an example, I'm looking at a property in an area I'm not familiar with, and it's not close to me. It's a virtual market. I can go and do Street View and kind of get a feel for the area by looking at the types of buildings that are there. So I hope that makes sense. That's virtual driving for dollars. It allows you to cover more ground, but it's harder to, you don't get necessarily live current images. So that's why I use them mostly for identifying multifamily properties, but you can use it for other things. Like I said, it's just, you have to be aware that it's not necessarily updated, right? Most up to date, I should say. Anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to cover. Driving for dollars, bird dogs, virtual driving for dollars. Can be a great way to find property leads. Then you just have to be able to know how to follow up on those leads you find. Where you go to your county tax property website or the cadastral site, and put in the addresses you're looking at so you can get as much info as possible. There's also other paid services you can use that will pull all that information for you when you just plug in the address. So anyway, that's how that all works. And I just wanted to touch on that real quick. And like I said, if you want to see the video of me going down the street and for a few minutes doing some driving for dollars and like looking at some properties, that will be on the YouTube channel at the Big Sky Investor Show YouTube channel. And I'm just going to upload that here this week. Should be up today. I think it should be up today. Worst case, it'll be up tomorrow, which is Tuesday. And it'll be under a new playlist called bonus content. So anyway, so you can find it there. Thanks for tuning in. I will be producing another show here in the next few days, and we'll talk about something else. Where then that next show we're going to be talking about, because on this line, this has kind of been all inspired, I should say, talking about driving for dollars and wholesaling and all that. It's kind of been inspired by going back to the basics, and that's what I've done in my businesses across the board. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next episode. So thanks again for tuning in. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, I'd love to hear from you. Social media, you can find me Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Luke John Anderson. John is just Jon, no H. Or now on YouTube at the Big Sky Investor. And I look forward to meeting you and connecting with you. Thanks again for tuning in. We will talk to you later.